rock-a-bye baby on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall, and down will come baby, cradle and all.
Wait! What did we just sing? Let me ask you something. You're holding a tiny, fragile human being. Maybe it's your own baby. Maybe you're babysitting. Maybe you're just remembering being small yourself. This little person is fussing, crying, completely dependent on you for everything. So what do? You rock them gently, look into their innocent eyes, and sing them a song about plummeting to their death. I mean, seriously, what the hell were our ancestors thinking? I remember the first time this hit me. I was 20-something, babysitting my neighbor's infant daughter. She'd been crying for what felt like hours, and I was desperately cycling through every lullaby I could remember. When I got to Rock-a-Bye Baby, I was halfway through the second line, when I stopped cold. I looked down at this perfect little person in my arms and thought, did I just sing about her falling out of a tree? What kind of psychopath am I? Here's the thing, and this is where it gets really interesting. From a shadow work perspective, I kept singing it anyway, because it worked. The baby calmed down. The melody was soothing, even if the lyrics were basically a horror story set to music. That's when I realized we've all been participating in this weird collective unconscious ritual where we sing our deepest fears disguised as comfort songs. And honey, that is shadow work gold. Now, before we dive into the psychological meat of this thing, let me tell you where this creepy little ditty actually comes from. Because, trust me, once you know the backstory, you'll never hear it the same way again. Picture this. It's 17th century England. You're a working mother, and I'm talking real work here. Dangerous stuff like tending trees for the timber trade or working in silk production. You can't afford childcare. Hell, childcare wasn't even a concept yet. But you also can't leave your baby at home alone because, wolves and stuff. So what do? You get creative in the most terrifying way possible. You weave a little cradle, tie it to a tree branch with some rope, and hang your baby up there like a tiny, vulnerable piñata while you work below. The theory was that wild animals can't climb trees, so your kid would be safer up there than on the ground, until the branch breaks, which, let's be honest, is exactly what branches do when you hang baby-sized weights from them for hours at a time. So these working mothers, these desperate, exhausted, doing the best they could women, they'd go to work one morning and come home to find their baby splattered on the ground like some medieval cartoon gone wrong. And somehow this workplace hazard got turned into a bedtime song. I can't even imagine the trauma. But I can imagine how a mother who lost her child this way might warn other mothers by wrapping the horror in a melody. Make it memorable, make it stick, make sure nobody else makes the same mistake. But wait, there's more, and by more I mean worse. Some historians think the rhyme isn't about actual babies at all, but about King James II's heir. The baby is the royal dynasty, the tree is the throne, and the wind that makes everything fall apart, that's the Protestant Revolution of 1688 that swept the Catholic monarchy right out of power. Imagine being so pissed off at your government that you write a children's song about their downfall. That's some next-level, passive-aggressive political commentary right there. And then, because apparently this story needed to get even darker, some folklorists trace it back to ancient pagan rituals where people actually did hang cradles from sacred oak trees. Not to keep babies safe from wolves, but to offer them to the gods. If the branch held, the gods approved. If it broke, well, let's just say the gods weren't taking applications for new babies that day. Here's what blows my mind about all this. we kept singing it. Generation after generation, we kept passing down this song about babies falling to their deaths and calling it a lullaby. We took our deepest, darkest fears about failing to protect the people we love most, and we made them into a sing-along. That's not an accident, friends. That's the collective unconscious working overtime.
See, what we're really singing about isn't babies and trees. We're singing about that gut-wrenching terror every parent feels, every caregiver knows, every human being carries somewhere deep in their bones. What if I can't keep them safe? What if I'm not enough? What if the thing I'm depending on breaks and everything I love comes crashing down? The cradle isn't just a baby bed. It's a metaphor for every precarious situation we've ever been in or put someone else in. And that wind, that's life itself, blowing through our carefully constructed safety nets, testing whether our plans can hold up under pressure.
Now, if you're doing shadow work, this rhyme is going to kick up some stuff for you, because buried in these 4 little lines are some of the biggest shadow themes we humans wrestle with. Let me break it down for you, and I want you to pay attention to what comes up in your body as we go through this. Notice what makes you want to change the subject, or grab your phone, or suddenly remember you need to do laundry. That's your shadow waving hello. First up, abandonment. Oh boy, this is a big one. That baby in the cradle? That's your inner child hanging out in some precarious situation, completely dependent on someone else to keep you safe. And spoiler alert, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes they just don't show up. I'm talking about the part of you that's still waiting for someone to catch you when you fall. The part that learned early that safety isn't guaranteed, that the people who are supposed to protect you might not be able to, might not want to, might not even notice you're falling in the first place. We all have these experiences. Every single one of us has been that baby in the cradle at some point, looking around frantically for someone to make sure we don't fall, only to realize we're pretty much on our own up there. And here's the shadow part. As adults, we do everything we can to avoid feeling that vulnerable again. We become control freaks. We never ask for help. We build walls so high that nobody can get close enough to drop us. Or we go the opposite direction and become clingy, desperate, always waiting for someone else to be our safety net. Both responses make perfect sense, and both keep us stuck in the shadow of that falling baby. Now let's talk about the other side of this coin, because if you've ever been responsible for someone else's well-being, and that includes pretty much all of us, you know the terror of being the one who might not catch them. This is the shadow of the failing protector. It's the part of you that knows deep down that you can't actually keep everyone safe all the time, that sometimes, despite your best efforts, the people you love are going to fall, and sometimes it might even be your fault. I see this shadow everywhere, in parents who hover over their kids like helicopters because they're terrified of what might happen if they give them any space, in partners who try to control their loved one's every move because they can't bear the thought of something bad happening on their watch, in friends who exhaust themselves trying to fix everyone else's problems because they equate love with rescue. But here's the really tricky part. Sometimes we're not trying to protect people. Sometimes we're the wind that makes the branch break. Yeah, that's right. Sometimes we're the force that causes other people to fall. We say the wrong thing at the wrong time. We make promises we can't keep. We get so caught up in our own stuff that we forget to check on the people depending on us. We pull the support out from under someone just when they need it most. And that's a shadow most of us really don't want to look at. And then there's the biggest shadow of all,
the terrifying, liberating truth that the universe is fundamentally indifferent to our survival. This is what philosophers call the problem of cosmic indifference, and what I call the "oh shit, nobody's actually in charge" moment. Most of us spend enormous amounts of energy trying to avoid this truth. We tell ourselves that if we're good enough, smart enough, careful enough, we can control the outcome. We create elaborate belief systems about how the universe rewards good people and punishes bad ones. We pray to gods, knock on wood, carry lucky charms, anything to feel like there's some kind of cosmic safety net. But the shadow knows better. Deep down, we all know that bad things happen to good people, that preparation doesn't guarantee outcomes, that sometimes life is just a random series of events that we try to make sense of after the fact. And you know what? That's actually not as depressing as it sounds. Because once you really accept that the universe isn't personally invested in your success or failure, you stop wasting energy trying to control things you can't control. You stop taking random events personally. You start focusing on what you actually can influence, how you respond, how you show up, how you treat yourself and others in the midst of uncertainty. So here's what I propose. The next time you hear a rockabye baby, don't try to avoid it or rewrite it into something safer. Instead, let it do what it's actually supposed to do. Remind you that we're all fragile. We're all vulnerable. We're all just doing our best in an uncertain world. And maybe, just maybe, that's not something to be afraid of. Maybe it's something to be tender about. Maybe it's the very thing that connects us to each other across centuries and cultures and circumstances. After all, every human who's ever lived has been that baby in the cradle at some point. Every human who's ever lived has felt the branch bending, has wondered if anyone would catch them, has had to figure out how to land safely when the fall finally came. And most of us did land. Bruised, maybe. Scared, definitely. But we survived the fall, learned to catch ourselves, figured out how to build stronger branches next time. It's not a horror story. That's a love story. A story about resilience and tenderness and the fierce determination to keep caring for each other, even when we know how easily it can all come crashing down. Rockabye, shadow. The wind speaks true. What breaks us apart also breaks us through.